Oh, hi. Hello. My name's Bruce, and welcome to my small classroom that I have here in the forest. Okay? And hopefully you've been enjoying what's been going on, and hopefully you're gonna like this one. Oh, by the way, speaking of like, if you like this, you can hit the like button and you can subscribe if you want. Apparently that's a thing that you say. I'm not the world's greatest expert on these types of things, but people seem to say that, so there you go. Now, as you know, or maybe you don't know, first time, I like to do three things. I like to do a little talk about an object, a thing, a little talk about a person, a little talk about an idea. So today's object might seem really boring, but I think it's very important and leads to an idea. This is it. Can we get that? I don't know if I can get a focus. Anyway, what this is, this object is a bread clip. Now, it's not a bread clip like I've been used to. For my entire life, I've been familiar with bread clips. And when we were younger in school, we'd take the bread clips to school, we'd kind of break them in two, and you can put them on your finger and you go poof, and shoot them at your classmates or shoot them at the teacher, or just be generally disruptive, and they're actually kind of dangerous. And they were made of plastic. Okay, plastic. Now, this bread clip, which I first noticed about a month ago, is not made of plastic. It's made of a rather firm version of cardboard. So it'll degrade. It's not going to last millions of years. And why would you want your bread clip to last a million years? It's kind of silly. So this object is a big deal. It's a choice. So somewhere along the line decided that you don't have to have bread clips last forever. Let's have bread clips last long enough so that you get your bread to the store, from the store to your house, and it can keep your bread safely in the bread box or on the counter, wherever you keep your bread. Keep it safely preserved, fresh from what happens to bread. It gets stale, fresh from that. And this is what you need, okay? This simple thing. Now, years and years ago, Jesus, quite a while now, 40, I began working at McDonald's. And on my first day at McDonald's, back then they had foam, the quarter pounders with cheese and the Big Macs and such were in foam, and the service was quite a bit different than it is now. But I said to the person that had hired me, I said, how come it's foam anyway? Why don't you get rid of the foam and use something that's not going to last, 100,000 millions of years? And she said, well, people above our pay grade, I'm sure they're working on it. Anyway, at this moment, McDonald's has worked on it, and they don't use, at least the McDonald's that I go to, they don't use foam anymore, and that's good. And that talks about that. So this simple object that I had here, which is a bread clip right here, is related to this idea of choice and criteria. So choice and criteria, that's important. Which brings me to a person. Now, someone that had an influence in my life, throughout my whole life really, is a woman named Roberta. She's my cousin Roberta. I'd like to talk about her for a second. Cousin Roberta was, in 1968 or 1970 and such, she was what you would call an environmentalist. And now I think you'd just call her a human being. But at that time, Roberta would question things, and I'd be talking about something, and she'd say, what about? So we talk about nuclear power, and she'd say, okay, there's some bad things about nuclear power. We talk about burning coal, say there's some bad things about burning coal. We talk about whatever. And she would patiently explain sometimes the good and the bad, and sometimes not patiently. She had a tendency to be rather passionate, which is really a positive trait. And one thing that Roberta really embodied, kindness. Okay, so whatever the situation was, she would emanate a palpable radiance of kindness, that she was concerned with you, and she was concerned with these people over here, and she was concerned with these people over there, and she was concerned with everyone and with the world, and that kindness drove her, and she was quite passionate in her causes, and I'd like to say that she was effective, and that she had a positive change in our positive evolution in our community, and in our country, and in the world, and certainly in the people that were around her and were lucky enough to know her. Anyway, sadly, Roberta passed away at a very young age, and at the time, I was younger, of course, and clueless, and I didn't understand how young that age was, and how really, and if there was anyone that really deserved to be alive and live for a very, very, very long time, it was Roberta. And I mean, there's other people that are virtuous and such, but Roberta was absolutely a lovely, virtuous person, and I'm happy to have had Roberta in my life. Basically, not a day goes by that I don't spend some time thinking about my cousin Roberta. There you go, Roberta Bruce. So you might say I'm named after her, but kind of no, because I'm named after, it's my mother's family name, my grandfather. Anyway, moving along. Okay, the idea, and as you know, the ideas come from economics, and I spend a bit of time talking about this idea of the production possibility curve, which is the notion of what can you do with the things that you have. There you are. And that, I mean, it's kind of a simple thing. Like you don't, you don't think of it like anyone's going to win the Nobel Prize for thinking of this, but it's important, okay? And within the milieu of what we can do with what we have is this idea of choice and option and selection and consequence and criteria, okay? So the criteria that exists today is different from the criteria that existed 30 years ago, 60 years ago, 100 years ago, 1,000 years ago, because we know more. And one of the things that people that really know a lot know more than anything is they know what we don't know, okay? So this idea of this simple bread clip, or the packaging at McDonald's, which really has evolved. I can spend a lot of time talking about McDonald's. I'll skip it for today. Is sourced on criteria. The things that we used to consider acceptable, we no longer consider acceptable, and in doing that, we recognize that some of the things that we have as criteria today may evolve into a realization in coming years that maybe that was not the best choice at all. Okay, there you are. So a related topic to economics is actually, I think it's psychology. So in psychology classes in university, flip open the first year psychology books, and my doctorates, I have friends that are doctorate psychologists, they can correct me on this, and if you want to weigh in, please do. I mean, you want to leave a comment, tell me why I'm wrong, because I love it, okay? Really, I do. I like it when someone says, well, wait a second, I don't think that's correct. And then we discuss why and have some evolution in our thinking, okay? But anyway, in psychology, there's this, I think it's Maslow's hierarchy of needs, like the things that people need and want, and that as the base needs are satisfied, then we look to higher and higher and higher needs, and which, when you get to very, very high needs, like our human necessity for intellectual stimulus and music and art and discourse, those needs are all made possible because you don't have to worry about where your dinner's coming from. They're made possible because you have a place to sleep. They're made possible because you're not concerned about a grizzly bear eating your children, which is, if you're going to worry about something else. The grizzly bear eating your kids, that's in fairy tales. Okay, so Maslow's hierarchy of needs, and this idea of choice and criteria. So if you look at the world around you, I mean, if you happen to be in North America and you walk down the street, first thing you notice is there's a street. And on the street, there's people and there's buildings and there's businesses and there's people moving about, toing and froing. They're enjoying the utility that comes from the cooperative existence that we call civilization. Okay. Now, in each of those entities, whether it's the actual street itself, because the street was once made of, really it didn't exist, it was a path. Then it evolved to kind of a more of a groomed path and a gravel path, a dirt path, a wide dirt path. Then you have a kind of a wooden path, and you have an asphalt path, a concrete path, different types of paths. And with each evolution of the street, we're exposed to choices, choice of materials, choice of design, choice of what is important and what is not important, and how that goes. And we have to be thoughtful in this. And the thoughtfulness, really, at base level, you're thinking of things and you think you know a lot, but as you get older, maybe you hit it into your 60s and you realize, yeah, geez, I didn't know all that much, and there's people that have devoted their lives to knowing things, and these are the people that we seek out. Expertise. Okay. Now this idea of the street, the buildings, the transportation, the sustenance, criteria, and choice. Now, if you recall back, and if you missed it, go back to, I think it might be the first episode or the second or something, one of these things. I talked about the human expansion of wants and needs, that people continually want more. And I said that more is kind of good because this idea of wanting more is what drives us forward. It makes people advance. Like recently, there was the first telescope. Okay, I think Newton may have made a telescope. His first treatise was on optics. You go from telescope to another telescope to another telescope. Then there's the Hubble telescope. That was amazing. And then we go from the Hubble telescope to the James Webb telescope. And each time these things get a little bit better. And the point is this idea of more and the cooperative endeavor of making things wonderful. But in the idea of more, I said, more is great as long as your more doesn't boom, boom, boom on someone else's necessity. If your more is not preventing the other guy from eating or feeding their children or having shelter, you're more or less fine. Okay? Now, I'm going on here a bit, but this idea of criteria and choices. And now, decades ago, let's just say 100 years ago, if you're going to design a building or you're going to design anything, it exists in your head, and then you want to get it from your head to not your head, to reality. Your choice of materials 100 years ago was a number like 2,500. So human beings had a number like 2,500 or 3,000 different materials you could choose from 100 years ago. Okay, there was wood, there was cotton, there was various animal hides, whatever, but not that much. Then let's roll the clock back about 40 years ago. That choice of materials was a number like around 50,000, number like that. Okay. Then you get to around 1995, 98, 99, 2000, year 2000, number of materials was 200,000, number like that. Now it's more. Okay, so you have materials, and there's a branch of science called material sciences. Now, this idea of materials, and what does it have to do with economics? What does it have to do with criteria? What does it have to do with Maslow's hierarchy of needs? It's that when you are creating something, you want to be considerate of your choice of materials and whether those materials are going to fulfill the function that you need, and whether those materials are putting the thumb down on somebody else. A while ago I talked about coal mining and how 100 years ago, my great-grandfather, when he was 6 or 7 years old, he was mining coal, and people thought that was just totally fine to send children down into the mine, and occasionally a bunch of them would die, and that was a long time ago. We don't do that anymore. Okay, coal. Now, our criteria has evolved. So when you're choosing your criteria, you want to think life cycle. Think of the path. Think of everything that you can think of. Stop people on the street and ask them what do they think. Okay, I still kind of do have a bit of a odd habit. When I was in university, perhaps I should have been spending more time studying, but what I spent a lot of time doing, well, not like every day, but I'm going to say once or twice a week, I would walk down the hallway of some strange building at my university, and the professor's offices were there, and I would see a door open. I would just rap on the door, I'd say hello, and introduce myself and say, so, what do you do? What is your thing? And surprisingly, I'm going to say 7 out of 10 times, the person would tell me. And not only would they tell me, but they'd be excited to do it. And they would give maybe a 5-minute explanation or a 10-minute explanation, or on a few occasions the explanation stretched out into years. And I'm grateful to those people for their patience. But what I'm saying is that there's wealth in the other person, and if you're able to have an opportunity with your idea to ask someone about what they think, or if you can explain it to them or listen to them explain it back to you, we're all better off for that. Because I think I'm making the point, or hopefully I've made the point, but if you look around the world right now, there's some people that are in positions of influence who have been a little bit isolated, and the entire planet would have been far better off had they simply asked their neighbor's dog for some advice. Would have stopped a lot of heartbreak and probably deaths and such. That's it. Anyway, my name's Bruce. This is my classroom in the forest. Believe it or not, I'm kind of working up to an idea that I want to share. I don't want to just go bonk. Maybe I should go bonk. That's it. Rip the Band-Aid off really quickly. But dragging it out. Not for the sake of dragging it out, but because these ideas are key, vital. The production possibility curve, that is, in my regard, one of the most important ideas for humanity at this moment, or forever, really. I think that's very, very important. Anyway, thank you very much for watching. If you like, just click the like. If you don't like, leave a comment, tell me why, and you can subscribe or whatever. Oh, by the way, I have no sponsorship whatsoever. Well, I have no sponsorship whatsoever, full stop, period. I am my sponsor, and I certainly don't get any assistance from the good folks that brought you this piece of wisdom, of this bread clip. Okay, thank you very much. Enjoy your day, and goodbye.